Hello, Bridget here, and welcome back to my channel. As you probably saw with my last week's video, I don't know what day that's going to go up on because I know it was filmed late, but it is EDS Awareness Month. And because I have EDS, I'm making a few videos on it. My last video on the topic was kind of an short overview, excuse me. I just drank water and there's like water on my face now. But short overview of what EDS is. It wasn't hyper extensive, but yeah. This video is going to be centered around my diagnosis story and yeah, how I got to be where I am right now with what I have in my medical file apparently. My memories of having some health issues kind of date back to about middle school. When I was about 12 years old, around there. I can't pinpoint the exact age, but I just remember complaining a lot about joint pain and being told that it was growing pains. And I was like, oh, that's weird. This really, really hurts. But if you say so type of thing, which I hear a lot of people get told that. And it wasn't significant to the point where it was hindering me a lot as a child. I just remember getting yelled at quite a bit. Oh, oops, sorry about my hair there. I just remember getting yelled at quite a bit by teachers because I would raise my hand in class, but I was one of those kids who couldn't raise their hand for very long because I would end up like doing this or like this because my arm would get tired really easy and I would be so baffled around me how children around me could just have their hand up as long as they seem to want without it hurting or going numb. But yeah, I want to say near the end of middle school is when my ankle dislocated for the first time. It was really baffling to me. I don't understand why I didn't say anything. I just was a child who didn't really like to complain a lot, who didn't like to speak up about things because I automatically assumed that I was wrong. I just, yeah, didn't complain about a whole lot. So I was riding my bike, which I did a crap ton in this time period, and I was going up a hill, and I normally didn't ride bikes up hills because it hurt my knees a lot. And my entire neighborhood at this point was hills. But that day I was like, I don't want to walk up this. I want to go home. I'm thirsty. I'm hungry, whatever. And I was going up the hill and all of a sudden my ankle had this weird feeling. Like it was hurting and then suddenly it just, I don't know, it felt like TV static to me. It felt wrong. It felt like my ankle was there but not there at the same time. I was really confused to it. If I put pressure on it, it would start hurting and I couldn't really move it. It just kind of like sat at this kind of a little off angle and I was really confused about this. So I remember hobbling all the way home like that, being super confused, being like, I should tell somebody about this. But instead I sat on my front porch and just fiddled with it and just kept yanking my foot around. And it hurt a bit, but not like horribly. And then suddenly I just remember whatever way I pulled it, it snapped into place and it hurt so bad. Like it made me cry. It hurt so bad. But suddenly after the pain kind of went away, it kind of ached a little bit, but then my foot was just completely fine. It would move again. No more TV static. It was just fine. And so I'm like, oh, maybe it was a one-time thing. Spoiler alert, it was not a one-time thing. It didn't just happen one time. After this, it happened almost every time I rode my bike up a hill. When I hit freshman year in high school is when both ankles started doing it, so I couldn't really hobble because if they both did it at the same time, I had to fix one or the other or both to get my butt home. And it didn't really happen during school. It was only when I rode my bike. Funny enough, I still rode my bike. It didn't stop me. I think I got to about the end of freshman year before my ankles just hurt so bad from constantly popping in and out. And again, I didn't know that's what was happening at the time. I finally said something to my parents. And I can't replicate what was happening because I didn't know how it was done. I still to this day can't purposely pop anything out, but why would I want to? Like, really? So yeah, eventually I complained about it enough that my parents made an appointment, and this is still discouraging to me at this point. of my life. I think I was 14 by the time. I was 14 or 15 when they made this appointment. And we had my primary at the time, which she was not a good lady. Not a good lady, but I didn't know this at the time. Look at my feet, and she said she didn't see anything wrong with them. It was just growing pains and that nothing was wrong. So that was the first 2 times that I ever went to the doctor for. The second time they didn't even have me take my shoes off. It's weird. By the 3rd time I showed up, they're like, well, you complained about this a lot. So I guess your parents are saying they want x-rays and stuff done, so I guess we'll do that. But you're like 14, 15, nothing's wrong with you. Well, when they did the x-rays, they found something wrong with me. I'm laughing about it, but you don't really want something wrong with you, but this one was weird. They noticed some oddities in my x-rays, and they didn't tell me right away. They didn't tell my parents. They just sent me to an orthopedic doctor for it. It didn't really say much to me. But what they ended up discovering in those x-rays is that I had something called Tibia Torsion, which I had it in my last video. I'll have another kind of like demonstration picture of what it is. I have not shaved my legs in like 3 months, so I'm not showing my actual legs. Sorry, y'all don't get to see this right now. You can see my pajama pants though. So I went to the orthopedic doctor. He took more x-rays. He also discovered the torsion. They also discovered that I had a piece of cartilage in my foot that did not belong there. And I was told there was nothing they could do about it because of my age. They were just afraid that if they took it out of my foot, it would come back again because of the spot that it was in. And I was really, really confused because I'm like, okay, so you found a problem with my knees. That explains why I constantly hurt my knees all the time, but not to anything else. And this piece of cartilage was in a part of my foot that really wasn't affected by my pain. It was a little bit, like there was some pain there and inflammation, but that wasn't my ankle. And I tried to explain that to them, but he didn't understand. But yeah, that was this appointment. I was told that there was nothing they could do about the torsion because they would have to reconstruct my legs completely, and that was inhumane. I was told that the cartilage would have to be left there because they didn't think it would benefit me taking it out, and that it shouldn't cause that much pain, and that I was probably overblowing it because I was a young child. They did decide to send me to physical therapy because the torsion was confusing them a little bit, and they thought I would have further joint problems because of it. And I was also told at a young age that because of this torsion and the fact that they believed that my ligaments were super loose, excuse me, it was a physical therapist that told me this, I should advise that. They did test my ligaments a little bit and found out I was really floppy, but she was the one that told me that I was going to have severe arthritis in my life and that I was probably going to be in a wheelchair by the time I was 30 because of these issues. And as a child, that made me not want to work with her anymore, and I was super upset and freaked out and scared, being like, why? What is wrong with this? I didn't understand what this meant because I wasn't explained properly, and also being told that you're going to be in a wheelchair by the time you're 30 because you're going to be in so much pain. As a 14-year-old, yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot to deal with. Yeah. So I didn't want to work with her very well. Turns out also I was allergic to something that she was using on my ankles, which was icy hot. I'm allergic to it, and she didn't believe me, so I didn't stay in the physical therapy very long. It wasn't helping anyway because the actual problem was the fact that my ankle was dislocating, and I wasn't getting physical therapy for that. They were trying to strengthen my hips and my knees and all that other area, like above my ankles, to try to help with the torsion issues. Anyway, moving on to a little bit older, I continue to have problems with my ankles. I did go in the doctor 2 more times complaining about ankle pain, and neither of the times they asked me to take my shoes off or anything. They literally walked in, heard my symptoms, saw on my chart that I had ankle issues, and just said, well, what do you want me to do about it? Like the last doctor I saw about it, he was just like, he legit asked me, like, what do you want me to do? You have ankle problems. Like, you have feet problems. I'm not an orthopedic doctor at all, and it just seems like you're overblowing this. So take 6 ibuprofen a day. I know the bottle says you shouldn't do that, but like you can do that because I'm a doctor, essentially. I never did that. I thought it was bogus telling me to do that, and so I ignored my feet hurting all the time and them popping out and just assumed it was part of life. But that didn't stop me from going to the doctors a few more dozen times. I went in for my shoulders hurting a lot. I was playing soccer in gym, and I was told that my injury to my shoulders was due to playing soccer, which she wasn't wrong technically, but she was wrong. She just thought I was playing the game wrong, or I ran into a wall, or I had purposely injured myself in some way because she thought I was a hypochondriac. And she did look at my shoulders, and she found out that my shoulder blades were uneven. They were kind of like this. And she did check my back for scoliosis, but only the top half of my back, where my shoulders were. And she was like, oh, well, it's not scoliosis, it's not bone structure, it's probably just muscle tension. You need to relax, you need to be less anxious. You might want to try medication when you're older for your anxiety. I'm like, okay, that's really weird. I'm really concerned with my shoulders being not even, but whatever. The weird thing is that if she would have checked the bottom of my back, she would have found that I had scoliosis that was caused by EDS. Luckily, my scoliosis is not that bad. It's only kind of like that, but she would have found that. So she didn't even look far enough down my back to find that. Red flag. But later on, I find out that I have such severe muscle tension in my shoulders because my shoulders were so weak and so stretchy that my muscles were trying to keep them so tightly locked into place that it was causing my shoulder blades to not be even. But yeah, I actually found out that it was the soccer that was causing the issues, but it was the fact that I was running in gym class. What was happening was the impact of me running was jarring my shoulders enough, and since I wasn't focusing on keeping my shoulders tense because I'm running, I'm focusing on my legs and not getting hurt from the waist down, I would relax my shoulders and they would jerk up and down and pop in and out while I was running. So it's a weird thing, but she was wrong, but right. On top of that, I later went in for knee pain and they just told me you have torsion. What do you want me to do about it? Take a Tylenol. Same thing with my shoulders. They were like, take a Tylenol. It's all about the Tylenol and the ibuprofen. I eventually came in because my hands kind of were locked up a little bit and they hurt incredibly to move them. You seeing the theme here? You seeing the theme here? I came in, my hands hurt. They looked at it for like 5 seconds and were like, oh, you have overstrain in your hands. You use them too much. You should just not do that. I'm like, I'm 16. I write and I draw on a daily basis. How do I not use them? Which was weird because my left hand was affected by it too, but he never had an answer to why my left hand had it too. So I think at that point is when I stopped really going to the doctor for my pain. Or really anything for a good long time because they just weren't listening and I was just being told to deal with it. Kind of the same thing with the dentist too. I didn't really add in that. I have some horrible problems with the dentist. I have anxiety. The guy didn't like me very much. But yeah, I kind of stopped wanting, like, going to the dentist at 16, like, because of them complaining. Also, I didn't say it in my last video, but my jaw has some problems. I can dislocate this side of my jaw and I can sublux it at will. I'm not going to do it. It's why I don't talk with my mouth fully like open or anything. If I open my mouth all the way, my jaw on the side here subluxes. And I just remember complaining to this doctor repeatedly that when he kept telling me to open my mouth, I kept saying that I couldn't. And at one point it did actually dislocate my jaw and he didn't even notice. So now we're gonna skip ahead because until I'm in my 20s. So for about 4 years, I just didn't go to the doctor for anything, almost at all. I just pretended all these problems weren't there. I was just over exaggerating them. It was just all in my head. I was just living with this pain all the time. I just thought everyone lived in pain all the time. That was just the point of like living. Until I started this is going into a different diagnosis story, so I'm not going to go too far into it, but when I was 20, I started getting very sick and having even more pain problems. Essentially, the whole joint pain got put on the back burner because I got super sick, and it was because I had Crohn's disease. That will be another story for another time if I feel like sharing it, because that one, I have a lot of trauma associated with that story, so I don't know if it'll be ever be told. So sorry about that, but moving on. We're skipping ahead to about 24 years old, 23, 24 years old. I had already been diagnosed with Crohn's and interstitial cystitis, and I had a new doctor who, to this day, is just the absolute savior of, like, my whole medical journey. She was really kind of confused how the interstitial cystitis and the Crohn's are meeting together. I also have horrible problems with taking oral medication because I'll get really weird side effects, or I'll be able to take it for a few days and it'll be fine, and then suddenly I can't take it anymore because I'll be hit with horrible side effects. Or it'll be the opposite. I'll have horrible side effects, I'll stop taking it, and then I'll retry the drug a few weeks later and it would work. And she's like, you have some kind of GI problems that I think extend farther than Crohn's, but I can't figure it out. And I had some other things, like constant headaches, all these other things I kept coming in for. And she's like, there's something here and I'm missing it. Well, while I was up camping with my parents, I happened to twist my leg. And it was super easy. I've done it before. I hurt my leg and I was like, I don't want to have to go in. But I kind of decided to go in because a YouTuber that I watched called Stevie had posted a recent video of hers saying that she was diagnosed with something, which was HEDS. And, excuse me, hiccuping a little bit. But because of that video, I ended up starting to research EDS, and I kind of started drawing parallels between my grandma and EDS, and then I started drawing parallels between my grandma and me. My grandma was later on, like, I think a year or two, diagnosed with EDS herself after 70 years of not knowing what was wrong with her. I know, right? So yeah, I was like, oh, so she was actually diagnosed after me because of me in general. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe this is a perfect time to bring it up to my doctor, thinking I might have a connective tissue disorder. So I went in for the knee pain, and I didn't say actually anything that I was suspecting that I had EDS, because I'm like, what if I'm wrong? What if I just didn't do the right research, or I don't know what I'm talking about? So essentially I'm just like, I hurt my knee. Before I show you my knee, I'm gonna tell you I have some problems with my legs. And you're gonna notice them, and it might extend farther than me just hurting my knee. And she's like, okay, let me see your knee. And as soon as I pulled my pant leg up and she looked at it, she was like, her face literally was just, has it always been like that? It cracked me up. She's a darling. But essentially she started messing around with my leg a little bit, because of course she asked permission to, and seeing how floppy my knees are, which are extremely, I can literally just bounce my leg around like this. If you can kind of throw it anywhere and it'll go any direction. I actually can rotate my calves in little circles. My knee just kind of lets it go in circles, like full circles. And she was a little astounded by that. By little, I mean a lot. And she ended up taking my foot and kind of playing with my ankles. I'm like, careful, sometimes they kind of pop. She's like, oh, they do they? And then she tried to kind of pull my foot a little bit, see how far it would rotate outward. She stopped it about like, so that my foot was like kind of parallel like this. And I'm like, oh, it actually goes all the way around. And she's like, what? I'm like, I can actually rotate my feet so that they're pointing behind me. And she's like, gross, please don't do that. I guarantee that you can do that. I can feel that your foot can do that, and I don't want to see it. It'll, like, no offense. I'm like, not many people want to see it. So she kind of stepped back, and she's like, she needed a moment to kind of think. She's like, I think I figured out what our problem was here, what our issues have been with your GI and everything like that. I'm suspecting that you have something called EDS, or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I'm like, you don't say. She's like, yeah, I think it's connective tissue. We're going to try to get you into a rheumatologist or a geneticist to try to test you for this. She's like, I don't know if I can diagnose this in my office because I have never seen it before, but I know about it, obviously. And I'm like, thank God she knows about it, because some doctors don't. It ended up being that not a single one of either wanted to see me. She wanted me to get genetically tested to see if I would flag for any of the testable genetic, like EDS ones, because there are ones you can test for and it does show up. They refused to do that and told me that it wasn't worth my time or their time because it wasn't curable and it's not something treatable, so it's not that important to know what type. And most people who get, they told me that most people who get tested don't show a type because most people are HEDS and you cannot test genetically for that. My doctor was really upset about that, so she tried to do the rheumatology route, but they also gave the same answer. And she literally just got a checklist sent to her by multiple of these people, the same checklist, and she was told that she could diagnose it in her office if I met that criteria. So she had me come back in and do some like little, like, I don't even know what it's called, like flexibility tests, and asked me a whole list of questions, and by the end of it, I flagged as having EDS. So she was very upset, very angry. She tried to get me back into somebody who would test me for it, like see if I had a testable version of it, and they all still said no. They're like, you did enough by diagnosing it, there's nothing we can do and there's no point, which is really disheartening. Thankfully for that doctor, she put in the work for me and she has it in my medical files now, so people can see it and be like, what the hell is that? I've had to explain it to 2 or 3 doctors and an EMT or 2, but like, yeah, that's my story. It's not that, I know it's not that riveting. I know it's not like full of twists and turns, because you can kind of see where it's going, because most medical stories are, hey, I was ignored for a very long time and told that it's all in my head, and in the end it wasn't. I'm not crazy. But I don't know if anyone had to hear it. But I think it's time for me to say bye. I'm not sure if I'll have another EDS video posted. I did do a speed draw of a sticker that I have in my Redbubble, which I forgot to talk about last time, but it was there, it was posted. So yeah, if you would like to get an EDS sticker, I have them in my Redbubble. The proceeds just go to me. I'm broke, so. But yeah, everyone stay safe, stay as healthy as you can, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!